Venus remains the least explored of our planetary neighbors. Often termed Earth's evil twin, Venus hosts crushing atmospheric pressures, scorching temperatures that could melt lead, and skies filled perpetually with dense clouds that don't even let a ray of sunlight touch the surface.
In this video, I'm going to point out some of the quote-unquote facts about Venus, and I'm going to point out the contradictions, glaring contradictions that to me just destroy the entire concept right on its face. But first, we got to ask, who even proved the concept of planets to begin with? Now, if you take a step back, insert one speck of honesty, and dive back in this rabbit hole, you'll see that none of them proved anything. They're just building off one another's bullshit. Ideas. They're building off one another's ideas. And as you can see here, they really don't even hide it. So it says Copernicus is credited with proving the concept of planets by proposing the heliocentric model. So how did they prove this bullshit idea? Just by proposing it. Come on, man. So a little while back, I joined a Blue Marble Science live stream to find out what assumptions went into the making of their model and what calculations and how does it work. And for some reason, they are just so stubborn and don't want to admit that any assumptions went into the making of this model. But let's be honest. The bullshit, the idea itself is an assumption. You can't do anything until you make the Earth the same size as the lights in the sky. So that's the base assumption, and they attribute that to Huygens, but I couldn't find that anywhere. This is what I did find. According to the records, Galileo was the first astronomer to observe Venus through a telescope and discover that it exhibited phases like the moon, which led to the understanding that Venus is roughly the same size as Earth. So that's the best they could come up with? By discovering Venus's phases are similar to our moons? It means it's the same size as Earth? And look, this is hilarious. Look how it fades out at the bottom, like the AI's way of being subtle. Talking all that. It exhibited phases like the moon, which led to the understanding that Venus is roughly the same size as Earth. It's crazy, man. It's almost like the AI itself detects bullshit and starts fading it out. Like the higher the confidence, the bolder the print. And the AI fades it out if it ain't real confident with it.
Rumpus, 13 years before Cassini, there was a guy named Christian Huygens.
He had to assume that the Earth was the same size as Venus.
Oh, yeah, he guessed that Venus was roughly the size of the Earth, and he was roughly correct. But that was a lucky guess, you're right.
It was a damn good
So I dealt with the big G from the work, effectively the fact value of big G, although it wasn't written down by the work that Cavendish did. And from that, you can then work out the mass of the sun once you've established that the distance of the sun.
Goal is to try and get as close as I can to the beginning. And make
your
sense
claim,
of it.
your claim that we're going backwards is wrong. The only thing we had to start off with Newton's laws.
From Cavendish to Newton to Kepler to Cassini. That's exactly backwards, bro.
So it all starts with some major base assumptions, some lucky guesses, and working backwards by crawling out of the assholes of giants. We're not up to a good start. So how did they calculate? So they guessed the size of Venus, but how did they calculate the size of Venus? It says the mass of Venus was determined by weighing the Earth, or more precisely by determining the ratio of the density of Earth to the density of ship balloon. I'm just playing, but the density of Earth is attributed to Cavendish. So if density is mass over volume, and you don't know the mass, and you don't know the volume, how the hell you get the density? And mass is density over volume. It's just a big shit sandwich. So this whole model basically is a great story to accompany the calculations. Now this is where it gets better, because they attribute the 14.7 psi atmospheric pressure to gravity.
Well, I'm breathing comfortably, so I think gas does fall to the ground.
Say again, Chucky?
I'm breathing. There's enough gas here. It's evident that it falls down. Otherwise, it wouldn't be here.
Yes, I mean, second law, this is, yes, I mean, you could argue, yes, if there was no gravity, then second law of thermodynamics would say that everything disappears, of course, unless Oakley, I mean, this is a classic case of the modus tollens. There is no barrier, there is no dome, therefore, gas does not require a barrier to be contained by the Earth. It's a simple...
Oh my God, we've got to run that back. You got to love Rumpus logic. So there is no dome, therefore the Earth... Like, what? We got to hear that again.
The classic case of the modus tollens. There is no barrier, there is no dome, therefore gas does not require a barrier to be contained by the Earth. It's a simple...
You heard it here first, folks. Oh my goodness. Rumpus logic at its finest. There is no container, therefore gas needs no container. How in the world could somebody come up with a modus tollens that pathetic? We got to get this to QE. This has got to go on the list. Somebody play this for QE, man. We got to get this one top of the list.
The classic case of the modus tollens. There is no barrier, there is no dome, therefore gas does not require a barrier to be contained by the Earth. It's a simple, rather better and easier to understand modus tollens than the one that QE, who didn't even know what modus tollens was until Brenda told him.
Rumpus, you've got the audacity to say something about QE. You still don't know what a modus tollens is by the sounds of it there.
Well, really, all you need is the knowledge that a full cylinder of gas weighs more than an empty one does.
Yeah.
That will do it.
So let's step it up and go with some blue marble science logic. Blue, not as bad as Rumpus, but definitely needs work. So all we need is the knowledge that a full cylinder weighs more than an empty cylinder.
That will do it.
Blue, please put that in the modus tollens for me, sir. I would love to hear that one. Like I said, you heard it here first. There's a compilation, back to back to back, Glober logic. Chikey, I'm breathing, therefore gas goes down. Rumpus, there is no container, therefore the gas we breathe needs no container. And blue marble science, all we need is the knowledge that a full cylinder weighs more than an empty cylinder. Good grief.
That will do it.
Now, Brian, God damn it, all we need is the knowledge that a full cylinder of gas weighs more than an empty cylinder. And that'll damn well do it. So, I don't know if you've been reading any of these slides as I was joking around, but so the atmospheric pressure is caused by the gravitational pull of the Earth on the gases in the atmosphere. Okay, now we see that the acceleration due to gravity on Venus is 8.87, so not even as much as it is on Earth. Okay, and on Earth we have 14.7 psi. But on Venus, we have 1,350 psi due to gravity that's less than that of Earth's. So they say there's clouds of sulfuric acid. It doesn't matter what gas composes Venus's atmosphere. If it's due to gravity, it can't be 1,300 something pounds per square inch if it's due to gravity. So look, we do the math and we get the equivalent of being under the ocean over 3,000 feet deep. So the atmosphere has more pressure than over half a mile depth in the ocean. And even at 20 miles altitude, it's still several hundred psi. That can't be due to a 10 meter per second or 8 meter per second acceleration. It's not even possible. It's just ridiculous. Who's supposed to believe this shit? So you see it says the upper atmosphere of Venus extends to about 60 miles. Okay, that's about the same as Earth. So we've got about the same size atmosphere. We've got more gravity, yet they've got 100 times more pressure approximately. It's just a story. I don't buy it. And most people don't know these numbers, but they've got to stick within the numbers of their model. They got a little bit of wiggle room. For anybody who hadn't seen Jaren's video, Scale and Variance, I recommend that one. That's a good one. It shows that using Kepler's laws, if you change the distance to the sun or the mass of the sun, you just got to make the adjustments to all the other planets, quote unquote. But they are confined to a certain extent. They got a little bit of wiggle room, but they have to make the masses make sense. So they have to have it raining diamonds on Jupiter and 1,350 psi on Venus. So I think the more people who know this information will be the more people who doubt this information and see it's just a fairy tale. Thanks for watching.